But the origins of Halloween, let me just start with that. And it's actually like an ancient Celtic Gaelic holiday. And what it was people believed that they needed to wear masks in order to protect themselves from the bad spirits that roamed around on All Hallows Eve. So they believed there was bad spirits going around. The masks they would wear, typically things on the more scary side of things, were able to protect them from anything bad going on. And it's a beautiful kind of tradition, if you will, and that happened, at the end of the year and the beginning of the new year, starting November 1st for those cultures. And however, this talk's going to assert that Halloween isn't the only day of the year that people wear masks. All right. Now, the best and most exciting thing I found in my research last night was actually this Japanese proverb, this Japanese saying. And what that Japanese saying was this: that all human beings wear three faces. One face is the face that you show the world. The second face is the face that you show your close friends and family. And the third face is the face that you never show anyone. And that is the truest reflection of who you are. So I'm going to say that again. A Japanese proverb says that all human beings wear three faces. One face is the face that you show the world. The second face is the face that you show your friends and close family members. And the last face is the face that you never show anyone. And that is who your truest reflection of who you really are is. So that got me thinking, why? Why is this something that for thousands of years people have been saying? And so I'm going to ask you a question. And the question is this: when is the last time that someone asked you, hey, how are you doing today? And you were upset, sad, scared, dying inside, and your response to them was, I'm fine, thanks. If you can identify with that scenario, and if you can identify with that example, then you know what it's like to wear a mask, all right? And this talk is going to actually cover 9 emotional masks that human beings put on, and kind of the roots of them and what's underneath them. And these are masks, like I said, we don't wear just on Halloween. These are not face masks that we're supposed to wear during a pandemic. These are masks that people wore before COVID. They wear during COVID simultaneously with their other masks, and they're going to continue to wear long after COVID's over and the pandemic's over. And we put them on and we hide behind them. And unfortunately, they start to become our identity. We start to identify with who we are with these masks on. And usually they're a response to some type of unresolved emotions that's rooted in some type of an experience, a trauma, a loss. And the feeling underneath these masks, there is emotions such as fear, sadness, anger, and so on. What they do is they protect us, and they protect us from the world around us. They're defense mechanisms, to the definition, to the T. And they give us a sense of safety, a false sense of safety in the world. And what the costs of these are is it loses our ability to be able to develop and maintain authentic relationships, to connect with ourselves and connect with others. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go through 9 masks. Some of these, if you've ever watched me talk about family dynamics, you've probably heard me say a few of these, but these are not even related to dysfunctional family homes. I mean, almost always they go back to something like that, but these are just masks that people wear not on Halloween. Okay, so the first mask that we have is the mask of the humorist. And the humorist is, if you're thinking about who wears that mask usually, just think of any stand-up comedian that you know. Think of any, funny actor, funny actress, movie star. And humor is a brilliant defense mechanism, because you can laugh and you can't cry at the same time, even though they both, could look the same. And what that does is they tell jokes to push away any type of serious conversation. They deflect with humor to not go deep to the real root cause of what's really going on with them. They're uncomfortable with conflict, so humor is a form of charm they can use to get out of confrontation. Comedy is a force field around them, a force field. And because there's a force field around them, they start to feel very lonely inside. Under the mask, there's a lot of sadness and depression. You read the autobiography of almost all stand-up comedians, and you'll find the root cause of why they started to wear the mask in the first place. One of my heroes in life and people I love so much, rest in peace, Robin Williams, is well documented on this phenomenon. He says, you want to know why people are so stand-up comedians? They're so funny because they don't want other people to feel the sadness that they feel inside, the loneliness, the depression they feel inside. And not saying that all humor is bad. There's a healthy form of humor. But for the people that constantly use humor and they hide behind that mask, there is a deep sense of sadness and depression underneath. The next mask we have is the overachiever and the perfectionist, right? I can identify with this mask. I feel like I've worn this one majority of my life, and sometimes I still do. And so some people use this unconscious or conscious pursuit of perfection as a defense around them from everything falling apart. If everything is done right, if everything's done perfect, if everything's done to the highest level of quality, then everything around them is going to be okay, right? The world gives a lot of accolades and a lot of pats on the back for this person. Hey, good job, good job, good job, good job. However, and it provides some temporary relief to the individual. However, maintaining the persona, the mask of perfectionism and doing everything right and overachieving, it causes a lot of anxiety underneath that mask, right? And these people are also really stubborn. They're also very obsessive with what they do, and they lack trust in the environment because they feel like nobody can do it the way they can do it. And that leads to a lot of distance between them and others, right? Nobody wants to be someone that's obsessive all the time about everything they're doing because they're not really connecting with other people around them. And underneath the mask, like I said, there's a lot of anxiety. The next mask we have is the martyr. Some people call this one the victim, but I kind of try to stay away from that one. And the martyr is a person that believes to the deepest core of themselves, and they boast about it, that they single-handedly save the world because of their selfless actions. They're always talking about how they gave up everything they had. They sacrificed everything they had for the benefit of other people, right? This is the typical person that as soon as an argument happens or a fight happens, they start to revert back to all of the sacrifices they've made in life for the person. And don't get me wrong, there is some beauty in that. There is some value in that. However, the people around them really get tired of that act. It becomes a protective shield, by the way. From the actual people that are trying to help, it becomes a shield because they stop wanting to engage with that person. The martyr secures the place in the world by believing that their role is critical for the survival of other people. And something happens, some phenomenon happens to the martyrs. Once the people that they're always rescuing and saving start to become self-sufficient and do things on their own, and they realize like, oh my gosh, this person might not have needed me as much as I thought they needed me, they start to lose and unravel. They start to feel lost because their entire identity was rooted in saving other people, right? And they start to feel lost and they realize, oh my gosh, there's one person this whole time that I haven't sacrificed to save, and that's myself. And underneath it, there's a lot of, like I said, feelings of being lost, but there's also a lot of anger because when they do something for other people, they unconsciously or consciously tie expectations to that. When they tie expectations to that, they're setting themselves up for disaster, right? So the mask of the martyr is really common, unfortunately, and it's one of the masks that revolts people the most from that person. And it's so sad because they're usually really compassionate, caring people. The next one is the mask of the bully. You don't have to be on a fifth grade playground to experience this human being in your life. They come camouflaged in different forms. Not all bullying is a form of physical abuse and doing pranks on people. There's a lot of intellectual bullying that can happen, which comes in the form of manipulation and control and forcing other people to do certain things. The bully, they appear to be really confident on the outside. However, underneath it, they're innately insecure. They want to be respected so badly by other people. They're willing to break all the rules of conduct to get some self-esteem. They break all the rules to get some self-esteem. Self-doubt drives their hostile behavior, their obsessive need to feel right that comes from feeling so wrong in life, right? Under the mask is a lot of fear. You show me a bully and I'll show you the most terrified person in the room, right? And I have a little compassion I have compassion for all, but I've compassion for this type of human being because bullying doesn't happen by accident, okay? There's a quote that says, hurt people hurt people. And if you show me a bully, I'll show you someone in their life that's being bullied, right? If you're upbrought in a family that's full of love, communication, compassion, caring, the odds of that person becoming a bully in life is 0%. But if you're constantly being berated, beaten, psychologically, emotionally, physically, if your self-esteem is low because nobody's providing you with love and nourishment, then the odds of you becoming a bully significantly increases. Does it happen to all of them? No, of course not. There's people that experience serious pain in their life and don't grow up to be bullies. However, there is some of that in there. So the reason I have compassion for it is because it's just a hurt person acting out. And acting out, remember this, is always behavior for which I have no words for. So the next one that we have is the control freak. And the control freak is a person that uses order and power to achieve a sense of security in their life, okay? They're making sure that everything is in its proper place and it relieves them of the fear of uncertainty, ambiguity, and uncertainty. Even though we really don't have a sense of control on anything outside of us, they feel that by doing that behavior, wearing that mask, that they actually have a false sense of control. And they become unraveled when things go against their plan. So when they have an agenda, when they have an itinerary, when they have a sequential A through Z, and all of a sudden something happens out here, they just lose it. They can't even self-regulate, right? And where is this one rooted in, by the way? Oftentimes, if you look at, because, by the way, we're not born with masks on. You look at a child, man, they're pure. There's no mask on the face of a child. They laugh when they laugh. They cry when they cry. They're full of vitality, full of expression. You know when they're hungry. You know when they're scared. You know when they're feeling lonely. So where did this control freak learn to put on this mask? And usually it's rooted back in childhood in areas of their life were out of control. Mom and dad were yelling and screaming all the time. Maybe there was a lot of moving from school to house. Maybe there was a lot of loud noises in the house. Maybe there was neglect, right? And they started to control the things they could control within their environment. They started to control their hands and control their what they put in their body and don't put in their body. They started to control their tasks and their goals, and they started to become really obsessive, compulsive, which turns into disorders, right? Turns into personality disorders as a byproduct of just surviving in their environment. So what they use to cope with their environment, control the things they could control, to cope, when they continue doing that over a period of time, it becomes a maladaptive way of being. It becomes their identity. And the next one I have, this one, oh my gosh, we had a community meeting at Buckeye Recovery Network yesterday. And this is where different individuals come up and they talk in front of the community about who they are, where they're from, what they're all about, how they got here. And I've never seen this mask so much more real in person than I did yesterday. And it was so unfortunate. And I had this talk with the clients this morning, so I wanted them to know that this is just a mask. And this mask is the mask of the self-basher. Okay, it's the person that's suffering from a chronic case of unworthiness and insecurity. They self-bash themselves and who they are, and I'm a loser. I'm a liar, I'm a cheater, I'm a thief, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad dad, I'm a bad son, I'm a bad daughter, I'm a bad spouse, whatever you want to call it, they just call it like it is. And it's not really what it is, it's what they think it is, right? It's what they think they've become. It's not really who they are. Underneath the mask, that's not who they are, but they identify with this. And they bash themselves because what that does is it creates a force field for others not to bash them. So they're so afraid of criticism and critique and someone letting them know what's really going on that they just say the worst things about themselves to prevent other people from even being able to enter that. And this is a form of defense mechanism. It does block intimacy, but it also is dangerous because it disables the individual from being able to make forward progress in life. Because as soon as you make 2 steps forward, you bash yourself and take 3 steps back. And Underneath this is just someone that's so wounded, so scared, so terrified. And this is one that needs to be removed and find out what's going on underneath it to be able for the recovery process to actually have an opportunity to work. And we'll talk about how these masks, where they came from in the same talk today, and talk about how to unmask these masks. And this is a very powerful talk, because I believe that we have a need to be able to remove these and get true to ourselves and get authentic with ourselves. The next one is the people pleaser. This is the person that will go to desperate lengths in life to win the approval of those around him or her. Desperate lengths. And it's based on the assessment of others. So their value comes off the assessment of others. It vacillates up and down based on the approval they're getting, the input they're getting that day. So if people tell them how good they're doing, how good they're looking, and how happy they are to see them, they feel good. And if nobody gives them any compliments and people are frustrated with them and they make mistakes, they feel this big. This mask, it solicits a lot of advice from other people in regards to, this one has an opportunity here. I'll tell you this. This is a really odd mask, because if a people pleaser surrounds him or herself with people that are successful and people that are healthy, there is a very high probability and a chance that they'll actually start to achieve things in life, because they're trying to please those around them, which happen to be people that are healthy and successful. But the danger of this mask is if a people pleaser surrounds themselves with people that are degenerates, that are dangerous, that don't have their best interests, that are not striving to become anything in life, they're going to start to please those people. So codependency is rooted in this one. They're easily influenced by others. Their decisions are not easy to make. They're very indecisive. But underneath the people pleaser mask, again, there's a bunch of unresolved emotions and low feeling of self-esteem, so low self-worth. There's only two more that I'm covering today, and then we'll get into the next phase of this. And this one's the introvert. So the introvert is also a mask. It's the person that is really shy. They're so timid, but underneath it, they're just deathly afraid of failure and rejection. Deathly afraid of it. They much rather feel just isolated than risk not being liked by other people. They're very similar to the perfectionist in the fact that this is they don't want to make a mistake because they don't want to be judged by others. They don't want to challenge themselves because it puts them out there, right? The perfectionist doesn't want to make a mistake they don't want to look bad. They don't want to make a mistake because they don't even try, so they don't even make a mistake. They usually blush when they're embarrassed. They don't say much because they don't want to say the wrong thing. And they get really comfortable with living an isolated life, which we know is going to lead to loneliness and depression. And the very last one I have is the opposite of that, which is the social butterfly. And the social butterfly is they're innately lonely. So just like the introvert, they're also lonely. And what they do is they compensate for their feelings of insecurity and loneliness, and they get really good at the gift of the gab. So they have a lot of acquaintances. They have a lot of acquaintances, but few real friends. Every conversation they have is superficial. They just talk about things that avoid authenticity. They pack their calendar with social events, things to do, places to go. They stay busy. And underneath it, there's a lot of anxiety in that persona. And the power of this one really gets revealed when they stop engaging in activities and doing things. So a lot of social butterflies, when COVID hit and they were unable to go places, they were just stuck with themselves at home by themselves. These are the population that they talk about a severe increase in their mental health, decrease in their mental health with anxiety, with depression, with alcohol abuse, substance abuse, because they just didn't know what to do. These are the people that really got impacted by quarantine and isolation. So all that being said, let me just check real quick, because I have this going on Facebook Live for the first time. Okay, so we're going good. So all that being said, let me get back to what we're doing here. Now you might say, Param, I'm able to identify the mask that I wear, and I want to take it off. So let me just tell you the steps of unmasking the masks, if you will, like what you have to do to be able to unmask these. And from there, I'm going to give you a homework assignment for you to do. And so unmasking the mask. What you have to do is, I just shared with you 9 different masks that human beings wear, emotional masks. that are not reserved for Halloween and not reserved for COVID. If you need to watch those again or listen to them or learn about them again, on the description of this video, all of them are identified. So I need you to find out what mask that you wear, okay? And believe it or not, it's not just one of them. It's not just two of them. It's often more masks, and we flip them around like a tire sometimes, but we typically gravitate towards one or two, okay? And then you have to identify the fears underneath them and the emotions underneath them. Okay, I can't do this for you. I don't know you that well, but you know yourself. And for example, if you wear the mask of the humorist, or you wear the mask of the perfectionist, or you wear the masks of the bully, or the introvert, or the social butterfly, or one of the 9 masks that we talk about, you have to find out what's underneath it for you. What's underneath it? What emotions are you hiding? What are you trying to protect? And once you do that, right, you need to be able to sit with your fears. Okay, now this is counterintuitive to what we do. Most people, they try to avoid their fears by all means necessary. They try to run away from their fears, avoid them. And let me give you an example of what it means to sit with your fears and the power that it has. So we've all, whether you have a child or you remember your childhood or you've seen enough movies, you've always seen the scene that in the middle of the night, a child cries or yells or screams, and all of a sudden the parents run to the room as fast as they can, and the kid's kind of crying and hyperventilating and saying, "Mom, Dad, there's monsters underneath my bed," or "There's a monster in my closet," right? We've all seen that. We all understand that. And the parents come and they turn the flashlight underneath the bed and they say, "No, son, daughter, there's no monsters under the bed. You're safe." They turn on the light in the closet, see, there's no monsters here. And the kid kind of starts to de-escalate a little bit, and they're still anxious, and the parents might hold them or make them feel safe. And what happens from that moment on is the kid eventually de-escalates to the point they're able to fall back asleep, right? Now, as adults, for the most part, in very rare situations, there might be a monster under the bed, but for the most part, we know there's no monsters in the bed, under the bed. However, the monsters that at one point in our life used to live under the bed in the closet are now inside of our mind. So there actually never was any monsters in the bed. The monsters were always inside of our head. Always inside of our head. And what we do is we get terrified and we scream and we freak out when we see or feel or hear the monsters. And we try to just distract ourselves. We drown ourselves with alcohol. We distract ourselves with behavior. We spend, we shop, we engage with unhealthy sex. We eat, we sleep. We do everything we can to avoid these monsters. But what if the cure for the pain was in the pain? What if we had to actually sit with the fears and sit with the monsters the way that a parent runs to the room and sits with their child? What if we need to turn on the light and just acknowledge that they're there or not there? Because when you realize that a lot of the fears that we have are not real, one of the acronyms for fear is false evidence appearing real. And the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's fake. It just assumes that it's all real. Last week we talked about that turns on the fight or flight system. The lizard brain comes in for protection. The amygdala comes in for protection. All the other organs shut down. Our adrenal system, our cortisol levels go through the roof. Our immune systems get bad. We get weak. We get sick. All this happens at the level of fear inside the mind. So as an adult, if you sit with your fears, right? I'm not good enough. What if they don't like me? The uncertainty of life. What's going to happen after this? If we sit with those and just be with them and realize that nothing's happening, there is no monster, we start to gain control over our thoughts. And at first, this might be a challenging thing to do on your own. And that's why you need to sit with a compassionate, caring, safe person, environment to be able to express those fears with them and talk them through and walk them through and learn coping skills and work on ways to be able to sit with your fears, because we all have them, by the way. This is not rocket science. All human beings experience fear. So the monsters under our bed, they're inside of our mind now. We got to turn the light on and just acknowledge if they're not there. And once we do that, You have to create goals, right, that are not shoulds, but they're musts. So I do this talk that I learned from Tony Robbins that says, raise your standards, change your life. And he says, in order to do it, you have to turn your shoulds into musts. And the same applies for taking off the mask. So we say, hey, I should do this. I should deal with my fears. I should have this difficult conversation. I should mail off this, letter. But we never say I must do it. When you say I must do it, you peel off a layer. I must is a very powerful statement that a human being can do because it's putting some weight against it. I must or else. I should is like, I'll do it or I'll not do it. I know I should, but I'm not going to do it. It automatically fills us in a place of guilt, by the way. When we don't do something we should have done or we do something we shouldn't have done, we're automatically placed with guilt. So you have to turn your shoulds into musts, right, if you really want to unmask yourself. And then you have to recognize your excuses. So you have to bring awareness to your excuses. People think that they're so unique and unpredictable. It always makes me laugh so much that human beings think they're unique and unpredictable. Well, this day and age, with all the social media and all of the algorithms and all of the abilities to kind of track people's patterns, we've learned through data that people are not only not unpredictable, they're the most predictable forms of, just like anything else. Just as predictable as putting something in the ground and it, has seasons and it plants and it grows, the predictability of life like that, human beings are the same way. Oh my gosh, you could track down a person's behavior and patterns and where they go and what they do and what they search and all that kind of stuff through data. But there's another way to track how predictable we are. And I challenge you to do this. Sit down and write down all the excuses that come up to you throughout the day. Whatever excuse you have to do or not do something, write it down for a week. And it could be about anything. And you'll realize that you have about 3 to 5 to 10 excuses that you use all the time. You have your favorite excuses. And those excuses are highly predictable. You might not know it yet because you haven't brought insight to this by writing them down and bringing awareness to them. And those excuses is what create your predictable patterns. The excuses that you have, the predictable excuses that you have, produce predictable patterns of behavior, which actually makes you not as unpredictable and spontaneous as you think you are. And you have to be able to recognize them. And once you recognize them, my strong suggestion is that you start to visualize yourself and visualize your life without the mask. Visualize what would it be like to live beyond your excuses. What would it look like to live beyond your mask? And you'll start to see a life for yourself that's not the life that you have right now. It's a life that's free from that. And the last few here is in order to do this, you have to learn how to find value and insight into pain. All of us have experienced pain in our lives. And the avoidance of pain produces more pain. I talk about that all the time. And we try to run away from our pain or not feel it or mask it or numb it or do whatever the heck people do, right? But it keeps coming back. What if the answer was to sit with our pain the way I'm telling you to sit with your fear and just acknowledge it? But more importantly, find out what lessons exist inside that pain. What value is inside that pain? What kind of growth opportunities are inside that pain? And oh my gosh, a whole world would open up for you, right? Our pain is our most valuable asset. Pain teaches us lessons of adversity, resiliency. It's where our character gets polished. It's what creates us to realize what's important in life and what's not important in life. It allows us to look at our behavior and the consequences of our behavior and to say, I want something different for myself. Underneath the mask, there is a lot of pain. And check this out. When you take off the mask, it's going to hurt. Why is it going to hurt? Because over years of wearing a mask, it starts to fuse to our face. So when you take it off, you better be ready to peel off a layer of your face. It's going to come with it. And after that, what you got to do, and it's 10:30, it's time, as you know, for my ritual that I've created here. And if you're watching this for the first time at 10:30, I always stop to take a little break. And up until the first 15, 20 weeks of this, I was taking some Trader Joe's water or something like that and telling you about the flavors. But 3 weeks ago, I challenged you to look in one area in your life and see how you can become healthier, see how you can start to improve whether it's your relationships, your health, your communication, your finances, whatever it is. I chose to really work on the amount of nutrients that I put into my body. So I went and got I got a juicer for myself, and I've been juicing 3 juices a day for the past 3 weeks, if you will. And today I have a mono juice. So mono juice means using one juice for the entire juice. And I went with watermelon. Watermelon juice, first of all, I'm obsessed with watermelon. If you don't know this, I know people that are watching that know me. I'm obsessed with watermelon. I always have been. Whenever it's available, I eat watermelon on a daily basis. But watermelon juice is one of the most hydrating juices in the entire universe. Okay. It also is very detoxifying. It could flush out the kidneys. We put so much damage on our kidneys. The little innocent sodas that we drink and all the chemicals we put in our body, we abuse the heck out of these kidneys. And watermelon juice just hydrates and flushes it. It's good for the skin. It has a lot of amino acids in it. It helps with blood circulation and blood flow, and it just tastes delicious. I mean, last week I had a green juice. I wasn't sure what it's going to taste like. This week, I know this one's going to be good. So cheers to health, my friends. This is 32 ounces of pure watermelon juice. I could probably drink that whole thing in one shot, but moderation is key. And I do drink about, 100 ounces of juice a day, different types of juice. Always get in a green juice. And some people say, that's a lot of sugar, and the green juices don't really have that much sugar in them. But I'll tell you this: when you're not eating a diet that's really high in fat or unnatural processed crap, as I call it, the standard American diet, unfortunately, produces the sickest people in the world. There is a lot of value in pure sugar, natural sugar, because our brain actually runs on natural sugar, right? That's why people, when you have a little bit of sugar, you feel good, is because our brain actually wires. And if I'm eating a lot of processed food and fat, then pounding a bunch of watermelon juice is not going to be good. It's going to spike my blood levels because my arteries are clogged. But if my arteries are nice and clean, the sugar I use what I need, and the rest of it just goes through the system. And a lot of this stuff, and I know it's going to sound a little controversial here, but a lot of the stuff that we hear in nutrition from our physicians and doctors out here, just remember this, that a lot of physicians and doctors, now there are some that are very knowledgeable on this topic, but for the most part, when you become a doctor, you don't get exposed to nutrition classes. It's just a few hours that you might go through. Same way with doctors, they go through one class of addiction. So people go, hey, my doctor's saying this. They don't know what they're talking about when it comes to addiction. And nutrition is the same way. Why would I follow the nutritional advice of individuals that practice in a place that people are the sickest? So when they tell me, it's kind of, you go back and people were talking about cigarettes and all that kind of stuff like that. Athletes would smoke cigarettes. People were smoking cigarettes in airplanes, and actors were smoking cigarettes. Then they're like, this stuff kills you. Let's not do it. There's a lot of stuff with data and research about the standard American diet that actually kills people. However, it's just a cigarette that hasn't been exposed yet, if you will. I strongly urge you, hit me up privately. I'll love to dive into this stuff, but eat as much natural fruits and sugars as you can. It's life source. It's a really powerful thing to do. So if you haven't started juicing yet, man, please start juicing. It's really detoxifying. We all need it. So I'll keep going through with this. The next one says, surround yourself with success. So when you're trying to unmask your mask, you have to surround yourself. They call it the proximity, the proximity of success that you have around you, the people that are successful, positive thoughts, visualizations of ways that life would be without the mask. Go to places that are positive. Do things that are positive, because they will allow you to become your fullest form of expression. If someone's toxic around you, if you're having negative self-defeating thoughts, if you're putting crap into your body and you're wondering why you can't take the mask off, well, maybe there's something related to it. And the last part here, before I get into the homework assignment, is to be able to accept. Now, this is something that people have a hard time with, because they feel like failure is a sign of weakness. And if I do something and I fail, then blah, 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 blah. But most influential people in life, that people like you and I look up to, most successful actors, actresses, celebrities, movie stars, right? Chefs, artists, um, business owners, entrepreneurs, physicians, Nobel Peace Prize winners, most of these human being scientists, their story and stories are rooted in failure. If you read an autobiography, which by the way, the fastest way to success is reading an autobiography of someone that you want to strive to be like. Because you can use their entire life experience and learn everything they've learned in a book and get to where they've gotten a heck of a lot quicker. But all these autobiographies, they're rooted in their failures. And guess what? Of all the information in the autobiography, the thing that they all acknowledge that helped them become who they are, it's not about all the accolades and success and all that kind of stuff they got along the way. It has to do with the lessons they learned through the failures. So if all these people we look up to and want to emulate and be like and this and that, if they've all failed to achieve, then we have to learn how to be okay with failure. That when you take off the mask, you're going to be vulnerable. It's a scary thing to do. There's a lot of risk associated to it. It's our identity. Who are we without it? So I'm going to tell you a homework assignment, again, that's going to be in the bottom of the description of this. And after that, let you be from here to do what you got to do on Halloween. But the question is this. What's up, Moch? Is when and where did you first put on your mask? Okay? Because like I said earlier, we didn't come into this world with a mask on. So when and where did you first put on your mask? And find out when it was, when it was. And the question is, why did you do it? Right? Why did you do it? There's a reason for it. We just don't put on a mask for no reason. Why did you do it? And why do you continue to do it now? Right? So why did you continue to do it now? And the question after that is, how does it serve you? Right? Or how did it serve you? And now it's, what is it costing you? How is it hurting you? So it's kind of like doing a pros and cons risk analysis, if you will. The good, the bad. What was the good about it? What's the bad about it? And the question after that is, what would it look like if you removed the mask and lived an authentic life? And what is an authentic life? Is allowing people to see who you really are, is when your thoughts, actions, behaviors are congruent with your values and your beliefs. Okay? Mochi, this is Mochi the cat. Mochi the cat, say hi to everyone. Good, Mochi. So what would it look like if you removed the mask and lived an authentic life? Now, some people are just terrified by that. Just terrified by that. And why are they terrified by it? Well, because they don't know any different. And like I said, underneath the mask, there is a lot of hurt. There's a lot of woundedness. There's a lot of emotions that are unprocessed. They're often rooted in trauma, loss, negative experiences. So by taking it off, we have to be really vulnerable. And the Latin root of the word vulnerability goes to something like vulna, which means susceptible to be wounded. Now, if you're wounded underneath and you open up and bring about some vulnerability, you make yourself open to being wounded. It's like having a raw nerve. So it's a very, very terrifying experience. But if you do it in the right environment with a positive people in a safe space, you're able to just practice it a little bit. Take off your mask for a few minutes even, right? That something is better than nothing. So what is holding you back from taking the mask off? You really have to find that out. It's not a betting man, but if I had to bet, I would say it's something called fear. Okay? We talked about fear. And fear in the program, there's two ways to look at it. So one fear is, I'm going to give you two acronyms, okay? So FEAR. When you're working with the word fear, the first one is F everything and run. Now, F is a profanity word. You could figure that one out. F everything and run, which is what people do. Or you can face everything and recover. Face everything and recover. Now, it's a choice. I can't make that choice for you. It's something that you got to do for yourself. If you say F everything and run, you know where that leads you. It's just behind your own mask, and you've done that a few times, and you know how that feels and what it's like. But if you face everything and recover, you might not know what's on the other side. Maybe it's worth it. Remember, recover means to regain something that's been lost, stolen, or destroyed. Okay? And what is that? And that's our sense of connection to ourselves. So all that being said, this talk, it was titled Halloween Isn't the Only Day That We Wear Masks. And COVID's not the only reason we wear masks for.